The wine glass shattered at my feet the moment my mother slapped it out of my hand. "Stop lying to us," she screamed. Every head in the restaurant turned toward me. My younger sister Naomi sat beside my fiancé Marcus, pressing her face into his shoulder, crying softly. My father shoved printed bank statements across the table. According to everyone sitting there, I had stolen nearly $30,000 from Grandma's medical fundraiser. My aunt called me evil. My cousin asked how long I had been scamming the family. And the worst part, Naomi kept whispering, I begged them not to confront her tonight, like she was the one trying to protect me. I stood there trembling while every person I loved most looked at me like I was something rotten. My name is Kiera Vale. And that was the night my sister destroyed everything I had built. I drove home alone, crying so hard I could barely see the road. I expected Marcus to follow me. He never did. 30 minutes later, a text arrived. Kiera, if there's something you need to tell me, now's the time. Those words stung worse than any accusation thrown at me in that restaurant. I called my mother 12 times that night. She ignored every single one. By morning, I had been removed from the family group chat without explanation. Then my aunt posted a quote online about wolves hiding in sheep's clothing. Naomi had already reached everyone before I even got home. Then Grandma's caregiver called me privately, sounding confused. She asked why I had not visited my grandmother that week. I had been there 3 days earlier. Something was very wrong, and I was only beginning to understand how deep it truly went. I drove to Grandma's house the following morning. She barely looked at me when I walked in. Naomi was already there, sitting beside her on the couch, feeding her soup with a gentle hand. She glanced up when I entered and acted surprised to see me. Grandma's voice cracked when she finally spoke. "Why would you steal from me, sweetheart?" My stomach dropped completely. Someone had told her I had taken money from her recovery fund and stopped helping with her medical bills months ago. Naomi quietly rubbed Grandma's hand and murmured, "Maybe Kiera is just overwhelmed right now." Then I noticed something that did not fit. On Naomi's wrist sat a designer bracelet I recognized from a luxury store downtown. Cost thousands of dollars. Naomi had not worked in over a year. I filed that detail away quietly and said nothing at all. Not yet. I spent 2 full days going through every bank statement connected to the fundraiser. The missing money had moved through payment apps linked to a fake email address I had never seen before. But the screenshots my father had shown the family displayed my name beside each transfer, placed there carefully and deliberately. Someone had edited those screenshots. Then Marcus came to my apartment. Instead of comforting me or telling me he believed in me, he sat at my kitchen table and asked to see my personal bank account. I stared at him. When I refused, he said quietly, "You have to understand why people are suspicious right now." Something cracked open inside me at that moment. Not from grief. Not from confusion. From the clear, cold understanding that I was completely alone in this, and I needed to start acting like it immediately. 3 days later, HR called me into a meeting at the hotel where I managed luxury events. A woman had anonymously contacted corporate headquarters claiming I was stealing from clients and laundering money through family accounts. My stomach dropped the moment she finished speaking. Naomi. The accusation was unproven, but corporate placed me on temporary suspension pending internal review. The decision was delivered calmly, professionally, in careful language that made it sound almost reasonable. Nothing about it was reasonable. I walked out carrying a small cardboard box while my coworkers watched through the glass walls. Nobody came after me. Nobody called my name. I sat in my car in the parking garage for 20 minutes without starting the engine. My sister had taken my family, my fiancé's trust, and my career, all within a single week. 2 evenings later, I stopped by Grandma's house to drop off medication. I heard Naomi's voice from the kitchen before she heard me come in. She was on the phone, speaking in a low, satisfied tone. "I told you, once they turn on the responsible one, they never stop looking at her differently." I froze completely in the hallway. Then she laughed. Soft and easy, like someone discussing something mildly amusing over dinner with a friend. She made this too simple by always acting so perfect. Footsteps moved toward the doorway. I pressed myself against the wall and slipped back out the front door before she could see me. I sat in my car with my hands shaking against the steering wheel. I had known something was wrong. But hearing her laugh like that, relaxed, genuinely pleased with herself, told me exactly what kind of person I was dealing with. Marcus asked to meet me at a cafe near his office. He sat across from me and could not look me in the eyes. His coffee went cold while he searched for words. "I just think we need space," he finally said. Until everything settles. Until everything settles. Like my life falling apart was a weather pattern he was politely waiting out. I walked out without crying. I was too exhausted for tears. Then I saw it. Naomi's car parked directly across the street. She was sitting inside watching. She had known about that meeting before I did. She had probably suggested it. I kept walking without looking back. Because if I stopped, if I let myself feel the full weight of everything she had done in less than 2 weeks, I would have collapsed on that sidewalk and never found the strength to get back up. My parents stopped contributing the rent portion they had promised to help with during our wedding planning. I found a smaller apartment across town and moved in completely alone over one weekend. No help, no calls, no messages asking if I needed anything. While unpacking boxes on the bare floor, I found an envelope that had been slipped under the front door. I did not recognize the handwriting on the outside. Inside were printed screenshots, gambling transactions, thousands of dollars moving through accounts registered under Naomi's name. The date stretched back nearly 2 years. There was no note, no name, no explanation at all. Just the screenshots, arranged in careful order like someone wanted to make absolutely sure I understood what I was looking at. I sat on that bare floor and read through every single page twice. Someone else already knew the truth. And they had chosen me. I began looking into the gambling records quietly and carefully. The transactions stretched back almost 2 years and added up to tens of thousands of dollars. Some weeks showed single withdrawals of $10,000 or more. The accounts were registered under slight variations of Naomi's name with altered details. Meanwhile, she kept posting quotes online about family betrayal and choosing peace over drama. Then my cousin accidentally revealed something during a phone call. He mentioned that Naomi had recently loaned him money for rent when he was short 1 month. Loaned him money. With what income? Asked casually how much. He told me without hesitation. It was a significant amount. Far more than someone with no job and no visible source of income should have been giving away freely. The picture was getting clearer with every conversation. I just needed a few more pieces before everything was complete. Grandma called me crying after midnight. Her electricity had nearly been shut off because a bill payment had bounced. Naomi was now handling all of Grandma's finances, something the family had arranged after the accusations against me. Grandma said she had trusted her completely with everything. When I brought this to my parents the following morning, my father accused me of trying to redirect blame. Then he said the sentence that hit me harder than anything else had. "Maybe Naomi has been under stress because she has been cleaning up your mess for months." I did not respond. I looked at him quietly for a long moment, then walked out of their house. That sentence should have broken me completely. Instead, it did the opposite. It made me absolutely certain that nobody in my family was going to save me. I was the only person who could do that, and I needed to get started immediately. A former coworker reached out to me privately through a message on my phone. She had done some asking around after hearing about my suspension. The anonymous complaint sent to corporate had come from an email address tied to a public library located 2 blocks from Naomi's apartment building. I finally had a real crack in her story. But before I could fully process that, Marcus called. He sounded uncomfortable. After a long pause, he admitted that Naomi had been meeting him privately over the past several weeks. She told him she wanted to help him understand the real truth about me. I listened without interrupting once. When he finished speaking, I thanked him and ended the call. Naomi had been working on Marcus from the very beginning, not after the restaurant accusations, not after the suspension. From the very first moment, She had been building her case against me with everyone I trusted most. I saw Naomi in a grocery store parking lot on a Tuesday and decided I was done waiting. I walked straight toward her. For a brief moment, the polished act held. The soft eyes, the concerned tilt of her head, the careful expression of someone who had been genuinely worried about me. Then it slipped. She smiled. A real smile, slow and completely unguarded. "Do you know why this worked so well?" she said quietly. "Because people already wanted to believe you were selfish." Then she picked up her bags and walked to her car while I stood there with my hands pressed tightly at my sides. I did not chase her. I did not call after her. I stood in that parking lot until my breathing slowed down and my thoughts became sharp again. She had just told me everything I needed to understand about her. And I was absolutely going to use it. I stopped reaching out to my family entirely. No more long explanatory messages. No more phone calls trying to correct the story. No more reacting to anything Naomi posted online. That single decision changed everything almost immediately. A wealthy client I had helped with a corporate event at the hotel contacted me after hearing I had gone independent. She needed someone to organize a private charity gala. She hired me without hesitation, without questions, without requiring any explanation at all. For the first time in months, someone trusted me based purely on what they had actually seen me do. I put everything I had into that event. It was flawless. Word spread quickly, and 2 more clients followed within weeks. Meanwhile, I noticed something shift in Naomi's behavior online. Her posts became more frequent, more defensive. She was used to me fighting back. My silence was clearly making her very nervous. I drove Grandma to a physical therapy appointment on a Thursday morning. At the front desk, the receptionist accidentally handed me paperwork meant for the billing department. I started to pass it back and then stopped. The document showed unpaid balances on Grandma's account going back 4 months. Naomi had told the family those bills were fully covered and handled. Beneath the balance sheet were transaction records marked as cash withdrawals authorized by a family representative. Naomi's signature appeared on every single one. I folded the papers carefully and placed them in my bag without saying a word to the receptionist. On the drive back home, Grandma talked about her garden and a television program she had been watching. I nodded and kept my voice completely even. But inside, something cold and focused had settled in my chest. The evidence had now moved well beyond anything that could be argued away by anyone. My younger brother showed up at my apartment late on a Friday night. He looked like he had not slept properly in days. He kept glancing toward the door like he was afraid someone had followed him. He told me Naomi had borrowed money from him several months earlier. She explained it by telling him I had a serious shopping addiction she had been quietly covering up on my behalf. She asked him not to tell anyone because she did not want to publicly embarrass me. Then he pulled out his phone and showed me the messages. Screenshots of Naomi begging him to stay quiet. Telling him the family needed to stay united. Warning him that if I found out people were talking, I would react very badly. She had used my own brother as part of her cover story. I made copies of everything before he left that night. Naomi announced her engagement on social media on a Sunday morning. The timing felt completely deliberate. Family attention swung immediately toward her. Congratulations, phone calls, dinner plans, heart emojis filling her comments. I said nothing publicly. At the engagement dinner 2 weeks later, I watched quietly from across the table. Naomi looked relaxed and confident, but her fiancé's phone kept buzzing throughout the meal. He would glance at the screen, silence it quickly, and look slightly confused each time. Naomi caught him doing it twice and changed the subject both times with smooth, practiced ease. Debt collectors did not usually call at engagement dinners. His name was being used somewhere it absolutely should not have been. He did not fully know it yet. But based on the expression that crossed his face each time his phone buzzed, he was beginning to sense something was not right at all. Marcus appeared outside my apartment building after midnight. He had clearly been drinking. He sat on the front steps and spoke without looking up when I came down. He told me Naomi had kissed him several weeks earlier. When he pulled away, she told him she had been emotionally overwhelmed from protecting the entire family from my behavior. She framed it as vulnerability, not as something deliberate. I stood very still while he talked. Then he said something that stayed with me long after he left. He told me Naomi had admitted during one of their private meetings that she had always envied my life, my independence, the way people trusted me professionally, the fact that I had built something real and solid without needing anyone to hand it to me. That admission explained everything. This had never truly been about money or family loyalty at all. It had always been about that one simple thing. I hired a forensic accountant using money from my growing event business. I gave him everything: the bank fragments, the gambling records, the fundraiser statements, the billing paperwork from Grandma's clinic, and the screenshots my brother had provided. He worked carefully for several days before calling me back. The fundraiser money had been routed through a series of small linked accounts before landing in online gambling platforms. The routing was deliberately layered, designed to hide the origin point and make the final destination difficult to trace without proper professional tools. Naomi had covered her tracks with real care. But careful was not the same as invisible. He could document the complete trail and produce a written report with supporting records that any bank investigator, lawyer, or family member could follow clearly from beginning to end. I asked him to finalize everything as quickly as he possibly could. I was almost ready. Grandma collapsed at home on a Wednesday afternoon. Her neighbor found her and called the ambulance. By the time I reached the hospital, several family members were already gathered in the waiting area. Naomi arrived 20 minutes after me, looking visibly shaken. When the doctor confirmed Grandma was stable but extremely stressed, Naomi immediately suggested the collapse had been caused by confusion over bank paperwork, what she described simply as clerical errors at the bank. Nobody questioned that explanation, except Grandma. Later that evening, when the room was quiet and we were alone together, Grandma reached for my hand and looked at me carefully. Then she asked in a low, steady voice, "Did Naomi do this to me?" I held her hand and told her I was going to show her the full truth very soon. It was the first time anyone in my family had finally questioned the right person. My mother knocked on my apartment door on a Thursday evening. She looked worn down in a way I had never seen before. Like someone who had been carrying a heavy weight for too long and had finally realized she was the one who had chosen to pick it up. She sat at my kitchen table and admitted that Naomi's stories had been contradicting each other for several months. Small details that did not match across different conversations. Timelines that quietly shifted. Names that changed without explanation. She had been ignoring the inconsistencies because accepting them meant confronting something she was not yet ready to face. Then she held out her phone with trembling hands. She had just discovered that Naomi had secretly opened 2 credit cards in her name without her knowledge. Thousands of dollars in charges she had never made. She started crying. For the first time, I did not rush to comfort her. I simply let her sit with it. Naomi's fiancé canceled the engagement. Debt collectors had appeared at his workplace, and when he confronted her about accounts linked to his name, she could not produce a single clean explanation. He left quietly and completely. That same night, Naomi fell apart entirely at my parents' house. I only found out because my brother secretly recorded a voicemail of the whole episode and sent it to me the following morning. She screamed at my parents for not giving her more money. She accused them of always favoring me despite everything she had sacrificed for the family. She said she had held everyone together while they gave me credit for things she had done. The calm, gentle daughter act she had worn for months was completely gone. My brother's voice was slightly shaking on the recording. He had lived with her softness for so long that hearing what was underneath it had genuinely shocked even him. Grandma requested one final birthday dinner with the whole family gathered together. Everyone came. The house was tense and quiet in the way that rooms become when people are carrying things they have not yet said out loud. Naomi arrived looking composed again. She had reset herself completely overnight. She made small talk, helped set the table, and smiled at the right moments throughout the evening. Halfway through dinner she stood up. She looked around the table and fixed her eyes directly on me. She told everyone calmly that I had spent months manipulating the family against her, that I had planted doubts, twisted stories, and used Grandma's illness to redirect attention away from my own behavior. She spoke clearly and with full confidence. She still believed she controlled every person in that room. She still believed she could say anything and have it land exactly the way she needed it to. She was wrong. I reached into the bag beside my chair and placed a folder in the center of the table. Nobody spoke. Inside were bank records, gambling transaction logs, the forensic accountant's full written report, deleted messages recovered from account records, Naomi's signature on Grandma's unauthorized cash withdrawals, and copies of my mother's fraudulent credit card accounts. Then I pressed play on my phone. Naomi's voice filled the room. Easy, laughing, completely relaxed. She made this simple by always acting so perfect. The silence that followed was the most complete silence I had ever experienced in that house. My father's face went pale. Grandma pressed both hands over her mouth. My brother stared down at the table. Naomi said, "This is not what it looks like," in a voice that had lost every trace of its softness. Nobody moved toward her. Nobody reached for her hand. Grandma's voice was completely steady when she finally spoke. She told us she had visited her lawyer 3 weeks earlier after noticing irregularities in her savings accounts. She had discovered that Naomi had transferred money directly out of her private account on 4 separate occasions. She had already changed her will. Naomi stood up so fast her chair scraped loudly across the floor. Every bit of composure she had rebuilt overnight disappeared within seconds. She screamed that the family had always made her feel invisible, that nobody ever gave her what she truly deserved, that everything she had done was because of what they had done to her first. She picked up a plate and shattered it hard against the wall. Then she walked out and slammed the door behind her. Nobody followed. Not my mother. Not my father. Not even Grandma. For the first time in my life, the room belonged entirely to the truth. 6 months later, my event company signed its largest contract yet. I moved into a small townhouse with a water view and spent Sunday mornings drinking coffee in genuine quiet. Not the exhausted silence of someone waiting for the next crisis, but the real, earned stillness of someone who had finally built something entirely her own. Most of my family slowly tried to reconnect. Some relationships came back in different shapes. Others did not come back at all. I accepted both without bitterness. Grandma passed peacefully that winter. Before she did, she held my hand and told me she was sorry for ever doubting me. My mother said the same thing in her own way, sitting at my kitchen table one quiet afternoon with tears she did not try to hide. As for Naomi, nobody mentioned her name anymore. The last thing I heard, she had moved away completely alone. My real revenge was never the folder I placed on that table. It was the life I built after it, steady and full and so genuinely peaceful that her chaos simply had no way in anymore.